Hello and welcome to the 24th edition of Half Hour, a podcast starring me, John Paul Giudice, as your host. In today's episode, I will discuss professional sports and mental health with Valentýna Klimková.
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Thank you for coming on the show.
No
I
problem.
appreciate it. So if you want, you can just begin by just telling us a little about yourself, like where you're from and like what you're doing in Prague and like just kind of like introductory.
Okay, so I'm Czech. I've been living in Prague my whole life, and I go to uni with JP, and I'm just here to talk about some not so fun but fun stuff.
Right on. So if we want to just dive into it, if you really want.
Sure, yeah.
Which professional sport do you think you're going to highlight, or just in general, what's your experience?
I did professional rowing in juniors, so that's like teen years for 3 or 4 years straight.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a personal experience, and I have my point of view and the point of view of other people. So I think it's I'm gonna focus on rowing mostly because it's just easiest, but mental health, I think it kind of describes everything more or less.
Oh, okay. Well, I think one of my cousins did rowing.
Oh.
Yeah, she would do, I forget which school she went to.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in New England, but she was on the rowing team.
Yeah. I was invited to go to the US
Oh, really?
for a sports scholarship, but I stayed here essentially because COVID hit, and it was just all fucked. They didn't have enough money to deal with it, and there was other stuff that
COVID
came
ruined
to the picture.
everything.
Yeah, it did, really.
Yeah, it's facts. All right, so what was your experience rowing though?
So I started rowing quite late, compared to other people who did rowing, and so I dived in straight into the professional stuff, international competition, and it was just overwhelming in a sense. There was a lot of tests you had to do. You had to keep in shape 24/7, and my social life was essentially zero.
Yeah.
So it took a big chunk of my life away when I was young. So that's a big part of it. Of course, it was fun for me to a certain point until last year, which eventually led to me stopping with rowing this year. I stopped now. And I think it was just the mountain of stress and issues that was building up over time.
Yeah, and you couple that with school, it can be very taxing, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Was your coach, did they want you to stay really bad?
Well, I had also this thing that I switched clubs 3 years ago, and my first coach, he essentially brought me up, and he was the reason why I got where I got in rowing. He wanted me to stay with him, but I've already changed my mind. It wasn't anything with him, it was more so the club in general. They the person who ran the club kind of had his personal issues with me and ruined the experience for me there. So I switched, and then it was just moving to adult competition and the pressure and the constant rejection of young people who just come from the junior age limit to the adults. It's just not it, really. So.
And he was the reason you got into rowing in the first place, kind of?
No, the essential thing that got me into rowing was that I didn't do anything, and my parents wanted me to do something, and they forced me into athletics. But I hated running. I still hate running. And my brother used to do rowing when he was young, 18, and younger, from when he was a little kid. So I just switched to rowing because he did it, and I said it could be fun.
Yeah.
Which turned out it was, but.
I think I tried a lot of sports when I was younger, and I wasn't really too into it.
Well, it's not for everyone. It takes a bit chunk of your time, and your health, mental health was under constant pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult to deal with, especially being young and growing up and having to deal with that you don't have time for anyone, and they don't want to deal with you not having the time, so they just don't talk with you.
Yeah, they just want you to compete and kind of keep going, you know. I feel like sometimes like sports and like working out can be an escape from my thoughts, but I feel like if it's overdone, it can make it worse, you know?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, I remember there were a few times in my life where I just didn't want to do anything. I wanted to stop with everything. I wanted to disappear. And it was, a lot of times it was because of rowing and the pressure of people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the rowing on its own, but also my parents, my coaches, like just the expectations were so high. And you're not always gonna fulfill their expectations and your own as well. So it's hard to like kind of manage and to get to the position that, oh, it's actually alright not to win every time or fail. And not a lot of people have that, especially in professional sport. So it's a big issue.
Yeah. I feel like in a lot of these sports, you should have more like mental access, you know, like to care in this way.
Yeah, I feel like in like the top-notch professionals, like everybody has a psychologist to go to,
Mm-hmm.
but we as young kids we didn't really have that. No one ever really thought that we needed it because we were kids. Like, what are kids gonna struggle with? You have school and then you go rowing and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that. Like, I remember a vivid memory. I had a girl in my team and we were both on the professional level, and she would always like be above me. She would always beat me.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I beat her, and I just remember her like she had a total breakdown. She started hating me because I beat her, and she made the rest of the year hell for me because she couldn't cope with the fact that I was once better than she was.
Well, to me, it just sounds like this person is just like immature, you know, and like it's like, why, like, privileged, like, why would this person act this way, you know?
Yeah, but essentially what it was the pressure she made for herself in the environment of professional sport, and I never really blamed her for it because I never really gotten to that point, but she had like physical symptoms of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So she had like these injuries in her mouth. She couldn't eat any normal food. She could only eat soup or like baby food.
Mm-hmm.
She had like digestive issues. She had like everything you can imagine that could go wrong for her because of the stress and the pressure she made for herself. It's just terrible to go through.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very unhealthy when you take these sports to that extreme. You know, like, I don't know, like, I just think it's, like, very taxing on the body, but also on the mind.
Yeah. I just remember going through injuries, like, I would hurt myself, but I would still train because I was afraid that I'm gonna fall behind. And it's not something you should do. You should deal with your injury and then continue. Which essentially, I think lockdown helped me get to, because in lockdown we still had to train. But I got like a big injury with my back. I couldn't move. Essentially, it hurt while I was laying down, standing up, or sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really a position that I wasn't feeling it. And I just realized that I have to take some time off for myself, which was really difficult to like get in terms with.
Yeah.
But
sometimes I think it's essential, you know, you have to take like, you know, some time on your own to like kind of like work your stuff out.
yeah.
I think that goes for a lot of things. Like, it literally can be anything, you know?
It's true. It's the same with like if you were overwhelmed with uni
Mm-hmm.
or just work. It's important and essential to take some time off for yourself and just have some me time.
Yeah.
You time.
Yeah, what I like to do sometimes is I'll like walk around the city, or I'll like find like a park that's like accessible by the metro, and then like climb up there and like kind of like get the view and like see everything, because I feel like it's like a good thing to do.
Yeah, so what I started doing now, I have a dog, which helps me a lot, and we go, not now because it's really cold, But every time it's not that cold or it's not snowing or raining, we just go for like an hour night walk. There's no one in the park at night, so it's just really calming and like you can think and just be with yourself, which I enjoy quite a lot.
What kind of dog is it?
It's a mix of a wiener dog and a German Shepherd.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Is he sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, he is.
Is he like medium sized, kind of like?
He has short legs, but he's quite long.
Okay.
He's like a taller wiener dog and a longer wiener dog with the German Shepherd colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. He's a rescue, so he's like around 6. We are not really sure, but.
No, I mean, I remember doing some reading about how, just in general, like petting a dog releases good chemicals like in your brain, and that goes throughout your body and stuff, and it's like it's really calming, you know. So like, I'm definitely gonna have a dog when I'm older. And
it was really unfortunate that I didn't have him when I was in the lowest part with rowing, because I feel like he would really relieve a lot of stress. Because when I had him later on, when I still did rowing, it was just such a relief to go and hug him or like annoy him, because I feel like I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I just pick him up and carry him around the apartment and just annoy the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him some love, you know. No, it's good. It's good. So I guess what lessons has this like taught you? You know, this experience of like, you know,
professional sport.
Yeah.
So it definitely gave me it definitely gave me like an outlook on life from a different point of view that other people my age had, especially the ones I was growing up with. Because I just remember that when I was in high school, every day after school I went to training, and everybody else just went like for a drink or hanging out, and I just had this morale that was different from them. But it also made me forget school a bit. I had a lot of pressure, so what would happen is that I would put school on a second path. Like, sports was my priority at that point, which when I entered uni that changed, and like uni is my priority now. So essentially I think that's what led to my led to the end of my rowing career. But it definitely taught me that I can deal with the pain, because it hurts a lot. Rowing hurts a lot. And I learned teamwork, but also being an individual on my own.
So it taught you some some fortitude, like to kind of like stick it out and like in this way, like have that, be able to carry that weight.
Yeah.
In this, okay. Yeah, that's good. I know that all the mountains that I've climbed, I haven't climbed this one, unfortunately, but like all the ones that I've done in general make me feel this way too, where it's like I feel a sense of accomplishment, you know, to kind of like have a long-term plan, if you will.
Yeah.
So I feel like even the hiking, at least in my experience, has taught me short-term and long-term goals and how to achieve them.
Yeah.
So like, although climbing up and down a mountain in a day is more of a short-term goal, it doesn't feel like it when you're up there, you know.
Not as long as a day is a long time. It's not a short time thing. Like, we do a 6K competitions in rowing, and it takes 30 minutes. Feels like an eternity. It's just so, it doesn't end, and it hurts the whole time. So I can imagine like climbing a mountain the whole day is also not really.
I mean, the longest one that I did was 13 hours. That was like up and down total. That was crazy. I mean, like it was actually here it was in Slovakia, but I went with 2 Americans last year, and we started at like 6:30 a.m. and we got back at like 7:30, and the whole day we were up there, like from sunrise to sundown. Like, it was like the whole time.
I don't think I could do that.
It's just, I feel like, you know what, it was really taxing, but more on the mind than on my body.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had practice, like I've climbed a few mountains before, and so did they, so it was kind of like okay. But it was really more of a mind thing. At one point, we were coming down, and everything looked the same. I was like, "Where are we going? Like, this is crazy."
Now, one thing I learned is that actually sports not about the physique, and competition is about the head. Like how you can manage yourself, and if you are able to do it here, then you are able to essentially at least like finish or complete the task. But if it's not here, if your head's not straight, you're not gonna finish. Even though your physique might be like all above the other people you're competing with, you're not gonna beat them just because you're stronger. Your head needs to be straight, and you need to set that goal and just push through.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the only way to go for it. You know, I'm trying to speak from some experience, but I haven't really done like a lot of sports. Like I've just I worked in high school, and the only thing I really do is the hiking. But I sort of see what you're saying. You know, like it's like you have to kind of like keep your head in the game, literally.
Yeah. It's just in professional sports, just a constant feeling that somebody's watching you, and it's not just a feeling; it's the truth. So I remember I got my hand injured, and it was the indoor national champs, and I was forced to compete by my family just because they were scared that I'm gonna lose my place in the Czech team because I didn't compete. Even though if I put like a doctor's note that I was injured and I couldn't actually row, they would let me off. But my family just didn't see it, and they forced me. So I remember like being in pain. I couldn't hold the oar. It's the rowing indoor machine like you have in gyms. Like the fucking devil's machine.
I used it at Flora the other day actually, just last night.
Yeah. And we do 2Ks and 6Ks on the machine as a winter season because you cannot go on the water in the winter. And it was a 2K race, and like my best time ever, my first competition was like 7 minutes 48. This one was like 10 seconds worse because I just couldn't do it. It was my worst time ever. Like it was traumatizing in a sense because there was the Czech team personnel, they were watching us, and I just remember like nearly falling off the machine, and they were watching me, and I was like nearly the last one there, but I just couldn't do it because I couldn't hold the oars. It was just painful. And
what did you do to your hand? Like how did it get injured?
I think it was like in school we played basketball and the ball just hit my fingers badly.
Oh yeah.
So I sprained my fingers, 2 of them, and we kind of tried to go around it, so we would tape the fingers together to the oar, like anything that could work, but nothing really helped because you need to grip it really hard for it not to fall off.
Yeah, but your fingers were like weaker at that moment.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't really hold on to it if... Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like... even that probably taught you a lesson. Like even just then, like you know.
Take a break.
Yeah, like seriously. And I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. Like you can take a break from like certain activities if it's like too much.
Yeah.
Like even with these podcasts, I go from like doing a lot and then like doing none for like a month or two. So it's kind of like I go back and forth. When I'm not busy, I'll make more. When I'm busy, I'll make a lot less. Definitely.
But that's not an issue, especially when you don't have a deadline. I feel like a lot of people, for example, in uni, I've talked with people who had the stress of like, I have to do things, but I am so overwhelmed, I don't know how to deal with it. And what I would say is just take a break for a day. It's gonna help a lot. A day can do a lot of things for your brain. It's just the feeling of relaxation that it needs, like a break, just a turn off, and it's enough.
Yeah, there's like an art to breaks or something. Like I know this isn't necessarily related, but there was like it was almost like an Instagram reel I was watching, and there was this professor talking to students, and he was like, okay, if you study for 30 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break, and then you do another 30 minutes, take another 5-minute break. It's like you really only need 5 minutes to kind of like process the information and then move on. And he was saying that it's a very like efficient way of like studying. So I feel like for that there must be a similar type of method to the madness for any sort of like physical activity. Like even at the gym, my friend was telling me there that if I'm new, which I am, I don't really go to the gym that much, but he was telling me that you should work out kind of like your whole body, and then when you decide to get on a schedule, you start to like pick certain parts of the body you work per day. So that kind of opened my eyes up a little bit to like how you want to kind of set yourself up for success, and you gotta be in the right headspace for that, you know.
So what we did for training, we had 6 days of training,
Mm-hmm.
which 5 of them were 2 trainings a day, and then Saturdays were just 1, and we had Sundays off. But yeah, like if you want to do something, you can do something. So like you can go for a hike, you can go for a walk, or you can just lay in bed the whole day. It's really your choice. But I remember being in high school and having to kind of some of my friends were able to do 2 trainings a day, and I wasn't, because I was at high school from 7:50 to, for example, 4 p.m. and then I would get to my training place like 4:30, 5 p.m. and then I had to train for like hour and a half, 2 hours. At 7, I would go get home at like 8, and then I would have to do schoolwork again. And it was just time crunch, and I didn't have time for anything else. I just remember being sad that I couldn't do the other thing because I was scared that other people would be better than me, which is...
Yeah, like I always try and compare only to myself, like kind of like when I don't know, if you play a racing game and you're trying to beat your time around the track, that's how I see it. Like I try not to compare myself to others. Like that's something I've been practicing for a long time.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, like I think in most situations it's good. Like you should be you, and that should be that. Like the only person you should be bettering is yourself in this way. But you know, my high school experience was a lot different. I mean, like I would go in at 7:10. That's when the bell would ring, and then we'd get out at 1:50. And you know, I'd occasionally stay after school. You know, I was class president for a year, so I would stay after school and do that. I would stay after for like math help, or even like other activities. Occasionally, I would even hit the gym that we had in the high school. It was terrible. There was a lot of stuff missing in there, but most of the time I would just go home, eat dinner with my family, maybe work on some homework, play a video game or something, talk on the phone. I had a job, so I feel like in this way, like I definitely had more time to kind of like do what I wanted. I didn't even go out that much, actually. I stayed inside and watched a lot of like history, like documentaries, things like that. Like
it's about your time, like what you want to do. What's my biggest wish when I was little was to have a job.
Yeah.
A little, when I was a teenager, I wanted to have a job. I have that experience now. Like I'm working 2 days next to uni, but it's just missing that experience. Like making friends in high school was something I've never really done. I'm not really close. I'm close to like 2 or 3 people from high school, and that's it.
Yeah.
But other people, like I see them on the social media, like we still have the connections even though we don't really talk. And you see them hanging out with people we went to high school with, and I'm like, I cannot even imagine being friends with them now.
Yeah, like I think like back in the same way, like it was much the same. Like although I was class president and I talked to everybody, I had like 2 or 3 like really close friends in my high school. So that was kind of like my experience in a way. But I don't know, I think like these like tough moments like of like physicality, or like even like in your headspace, they just like they help you make who you are. I wouldn't want to change anything. Like I wish I went out a little more. Like that would be something I would have liked to have done, but I wouldn't like change that if I could. Like you know, the past is the past. Like, you try not to live with regrets, you know?
Yeah, I don't think I necessarily like regret anything. It's just the fact that I felt like I didn't really have a choice. Like, probably you had more choice in your high school years than I did. I just felt like I have to go. I have to train. I have to perform. I have to have results. And it was the pressure. I feel like it was the pressure, especially from my parents, because they didn't realize that their attitude towards my sports career is actually damaging. And it's not their fault because they don't understand, but they were a really part of like the damage to my mental health in my rowing career.
So, like, you'd say that, like, the, like, professional sports or just any sport in general that you do in high school or college can be very, like, mentally pressing, you know? Like, it can be very, like, there's a lot of pushing that goes on.
So what I feel like is that any professional sport is mentally pushing, but it's especially pushing if you do it as a child or non-adult, because you don't understand the world and yourself quite that well yet. And I was going through being a professional athlete at the same time that I was growing up, and it screwed up some parts of my process for sure. Like, there are some things that will forever stick with me that happened, and that's not healthy. But it was a part of making who I am today and talking about it here, for example, or anywhere. Anyone who will ask, I'm able to talk about it now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's very nice, like, you brought this onto the podcast for, you know, other people to hear. Maybe someone will someday listen to this and, like, feel very like nice about it, you know, like, or relatable, or, you know, maybe they'll have like a similar experience and maybe they'll share it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, like, kind of like to elaborate. Like, I would ask for more details, but I don't want to, like, be too...
You can ask, I don't mind. It's just whatever you want to know.
Would you say that the one with your hand was, like, the hardest day? Or, like,
No,
was there one that sticks out?
Not. There was it was actually a longer period of time. It was 2018. How old was I? That's 4 years ago. So I was 17, I think. Around 17, 18, 16, something like that. And we were under constant watch from the coaches and the Czech team, and they used to weigh us every morning.
Oh, really?
And like, if somebody was heavier, they used to comment on their foods and their choice of food and how much they ate. And I just remember every girl at least, boys didn't have such an issue with it, because like being heavier was better. But I remember all the girls just like trying to do everything in their power to be as light as possible every morning. And I remember losing around 9 kilos in like 3-4 weeks, maybe even less. And it was just a terrible time. Like, I checked everything I ate. I ate smaller portions because I wanted to be lighter and
so it was kind of
be
like,
good enough.
It was like calorie counting. Like, you had to
I didn't even count calories. I just saw what everybody else took and I took half.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I was gonna say with the kilograms, it's like I'm trying to think of like how much in pounds that is.
I have no clue.
I mean, I was at the gym yesterday and I put 10 kilograms on either side of the bench press. Like, I'm not looking to impress anybody. Like, that's just where I was at. So that was pretty heavy, like holding one of those weights, like, relatively. So yeah, like that's like very dedicated.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it was really unhealthy as well.
Yeah.
I kind of let go of that mentality now. And since I've stopped rowing, I've definitely gained weight, and I've been listening to the comments that my parents been making about it, because they definitely didn't want me to stop, and I just kind of have to like push it away.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta live for you.
I'm happier now.
Yeah, you gotta live for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's no There's no other, like, your life is the most important.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my family and friends, and I'm there for them, like, around them. But sometimes you have to just make a decision that's best for you. And that can be where you study, like what sports you play, like whatever thing it can be.
Yeah, it's not like I don't do sports anymore, but I just don't want to do it 13 times a week with having to do my uni work and actually wanting to get some money for myself. So there had to be some changes made. And
Yeah,
I just
something
decided
had to go.
do them, and my coach took it well. My friends from rowing took it well as well. We're still in contact. We talk. But even though my parents now look like they took it well, I don't think at first it was like a good, like they didn't feel good about it, definitely.
Yeah, and like I guess it's good that, these people are respecting or coming to respect your decision, like that's important. I feel like it shows like these people really, were there for you in that way. Like they want what's best for you, and if you're taking that direction, then do what you gotta do,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we're kind of getting towards the end here, so
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any last message you wanna.
Do everything you do for yourself and don't really care about what else it might do if it's not really like a murder or robbery.
By and large.
Just if you feel like you need to do something, even though it might not be what's ideal for people around you, just do it because you're the most important person in your life. So I think that's like the message of this podcast today.
All right, coming at it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, stay tuned. We should have some more. And cheers.
Bye.
Peace.